Neptunia Game Maker Revolution is an action game, an otome game, a racing game, and, well, a game that spreads in many different directions. And now it's available for Nintendo Switch, and in this video we check out how the game feels on the handheld console and if it's worth buying. The price is set at $50 and requires 6.7 GB of your Switch space. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give a thumbs up. Let's go! So this is a story that dives into the gaming industry. The game's main protagonist, whom we met in previous Neptunia games, is back, and now she acts as the CEO of a small game company. Together with her companions, they try to build a company that produces and delivers the best games. But the competition is fierce, and there are many around who are happy to resort to questionable methods in order to own the market. So the question is whether our heroes can outcompete the opponents and create a company that can seriously show its true potential. What I want to add about this story without spoiling it is that if you played previous games in the series, you will probably recognize some of the characters. So even though this is a standalone game, it has its natural place in the Neptunia universe. Many dialogues can lead to dramatic events, but are often mixed up with drawn-out banter, usually between the game's protagonists. But in conclusion, I still want to point out that the tone is relatively light-hearted, although many concepts are taken from real life. Everything is mixed together with fantasy, so most of what you get to experience feels easy and with a certain self-distance. If you have played Neptunia Sisters vs Sisters, it becomes clear pretty quickly that a lot is the same. It almost feels like a 2.0 actually. We are talking about a similar map, about what I believe are reused environments, about a combat system that we've seen before, about enemies and creatures that we're fighting again, and a lot of other things. In fact, it's so similar that it feels like the only differences are the things they added, instead of changing and coming up with something completely new and different. So you shouldn't expect a game that goes in a whole new different direction, but we do get a new story and some new features. But to show some similarities, here is the map in Sisters, and here in Game Maker. This is a typical area in Sisters. And here is one in Game Maker. This is how it looks when the characters communicate in Sisters and in Game Maker. The disc system is also back, and characters can be equipped with weapons, an armor and a costume. You can also decorate them with accessories. In Game Maker, it's possible to take on a floor system where the enemies become progressively stronger and stronger. It's called the Neptunia Tower. This is quite a fun and varied activity that can be very rewarding. When you win a battle, you're usually rewarded with a lot of experience points, so it can be worth if you want to level up quickly. In the battles, you switch between 4 characters. A hero can perform combo attacks, but together with the others, chains can be created, increasing the amount of damage dealt. Very useful when facing enemies with a lot of health. There is also a super powerful special attack called X-Drive. This attack does a ton of damage and can be good to use against the toughest enemies. The combat system is relatively logical and easy to use, but on the other hand, it can sometimes get very messy. Especially if you're fighting 5 enemies at once and your men are moving all over the field. It becomes as if you lose control of the events when you take unnecessary damage and prioritize the wrong enemy. It is as if a battle takes on a life of its own, and it becomes difficult to maneuver everything that is happening. Sometimes you also encounter bosses, and here I think the entertainment value increases, mostly because the bosses can offer good resistance and the battles become very even. I noticed that my pulse went up and it was unclear if I was going to win or lose. The places you run around give the illusion of an open world. but the fact is that they are clearly delineated and more reminiscent of running through corridors. However, the courses can be large and contain many dead ends, which means that you have to constantly explore to find the right path. Sometimes you also have to press a button in a certain place to open up a portal in another. Sometimes I got lost from constantly running back and forth. However, there is a very useful map that clearly shows where you have been and where you should explore further, so it's relatively easy to navigate despite seeing yourself running everywhere through all the corridors. When it comes to performance, there are obvious problems. The frame rate is certainly very stable, regardless of whether you're fighting or in one of the game's dungeons. What I see as problematic are all the loading times. They are on the border of enervating. Every time you initiate a battle or end a battle, it's like the game freezes and needs to load. And considering that you fight frequently, this problem occurs basically all the time, regardless of where in the game you are. In addition, I have experienced a number of crashes, and they have come at completely inappropriate times. It is not possible to save in the dungeons unless you find a safe spot, and if you have reached a good distance, it is very boring to have to redo everything because the game crashed. Unfortunately, I have experienced a lot of crashes, and it's quite sad to be honest, so the performance gives a mixed impression, at least on the Nintendo Switch. There is also the possibility of starting a business or building up a business. This is done by hiring staff who go on assignments. When they come back, if they come home with the right materials, you can upgrade and expand the company. This takes the game in a more management direction and clearly stands out compared to what else you do in the game. You can also race. You have a motorcycle at your disposal, and believe me, it has a high top speed and can be a bit fiddly to steer, but it's a pretty fun addition to the game. Sometimes you get the opportunity to race against one of the game's enemies. It can be worth it, because if you win, there is a reward to collect. So the inclusion of racing and building a business are two pretty entertaining features that definitely deepen the gaming experience. So the question is this game worth $50? As it is right now, I want to answer no to that question, until the performance problems are fixed. The crashes need to be reduced, and something needs to be done about all the loading times. They really drag the game down as a whole. But in spite of that, this is a relatively large and complex adventure that, even though it goes in different directions, still forms a whole that I think works. The combination of visual novel, lots of fighting and racing makes for a pretty interesting comp that could be worth playing. And if you don't understand something, there is a manual available that explains most of what you need to know. In addition, there are tutorials during the game, so you learn while you play. But $50, I don't know. If they fix the performance, then I think we have a big and comprehensive adventure that can appeal to most fans of the series, but also those who have never played Neptunia before. Basically, you get many hours of gameplay and tons of content. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and give a thumbs up. I review new games for Nintendo Switch off and on. Have a great day, see ya!